Okay, so you all can see my screen?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. All right, so we are going to start lecture 10 of the series. And today I'm going to concentrate on looking at some old texts and astronomers that actually wrote those texts and contributed to the development of in the Indian knowledge system in astronomy. What I intend to do is to pass on to you the level of antiquity of our civilization and the level of antiquity that was developed in the field of astronomy in particular. Shri Guru Bhyo Namaha. Our respects to our teachers. Today, I'm going to be using quite a lot of slides that Rajvedam had developed, so special mention to him. Our Shanti Mantra. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Savinyam Karavavahe Tejasvinavaditamastu Ma Vidvishavahe. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. May we all be protected and nourished with knowledge. May we make effort for the capacity of knowledge to take place. May what we studied be brilliantly clear. Let us not have any misunderstanding. Om, peace, peace, peace. So the agenda for today, like I said, I wanted to focus on the ancient astronomical observations made in text and made by astronomers. However, before we go there, I think I would just like to do a recap on the different cosmologies that we have studied. We look at the Western modern status of the knowledge. We look at all the different Vedic cosmologies, and we also looked at Srimad Bhagavatam as an example of the Puranic cosmology. So, in terms of the Western cosmology, what we studied was the fact that the current state of understanding is the origin of the universe began with the Big Bang, which was a singularity, which was infinitely dense and infinitely hot. And this infinite heat and density exploded or expanded, to put it in a better context, expanded to become the universe 13.8 billion years ago, or it's also known as 13.8 giga annum, which is the astronomical unit. So that was the origin of the universe according to the Big Bang theory, according to the current status of understanding. It expanded from the singularity, and there was clear evidence of galaxies moving apart. This was captured also by Hubble in recent times. But the evidence for this expansion existed before, and the different evidences that were gathered, which all pointed to the expansion. Was the first was the cosmic microwave background, and this was like a glow, and the many ways of looking at the glow. And one analogy is the static that you see sometimes on television when you turn it on. So it is almost like that. It is almost like something that was continuous. And this 2.7 Kelvin is basically the heat when it, or a few seconds after the Big Bang, it was greater than 3000 Kelvin. And then the current temperature is estimated to be around 2.7 Kelvin of this cosmic background. So which kind of uh, told that there was this intense cooling on the expansion, which resulted in this cosmic. So that this was the evidence that was used: the fact that it had cooled and the fact that it glowed and stayed for such a long time. Then there was also this entire concept of the galaxies moving apart and being spectroscopically examined to give you a shift towards the red part of the spectrum, which indicated that they're moving apart or moving further away from us. Uh, and the presence of the light elements. So this is helium and hydrogen. The ratio of hydrogen to helium, if it was fully from coming from only from the stars, would be a certain, say, 25%. But the fact that it is much higher, it's like 75%, indicated that there was something which initially initiated the nucleosynthesis, and that is pointing again to the Big Bang. So all these evidences is resulting in the fact that we consider the status, the origin, to be the Big Bang. The future of the Big Bang is a little bit speculative in nature at the moment, there is a possibility, or some people talk about an eternal expansion. But some people have put forward the idea of a big bounce, or even sometimes they talk about a big crunch where the entire thing collapses. But it's more prevalent that you find the theory of the big bounce, where you have the universe collapsing and then re-emerging. Now, how does that correspond to the different Vedic suktas, or the ancient Indian narrative on the whole cosmic genesis? And this cosmology that is found in ancient Indian texts, really what it does, it blends three things. It blends the philosophy, it blends spirituality, and it blends the observational aspects of what we are actually seeing at the moment. So it is a very nice and seamless blend of these three aspects of cosmology. And what we have seen, some examples here, the Nasadiya Sukta, uh, which uh, which talks about the origin of it being and non-being existing at the same point. We also talked about Purusha Sukta, where he talked about the origin again can be interpreted from a Big Bang point of view. It came from a certain cosmic giant almost. Then we also talked about Hiranyagarbha Sukta, which talked about the existence of the universe in a Brahmand, in an egg, from which Brahma emerges, or the cosmogonics of the universe emerges. And all of them talked about endless cycle. So in eternal cycle in some ways. So the cycle of creation, sustenance, and dissolution, Shrishti, Sthiti, and Pralaya. Uh, so that was pretty common among all the different suttas. And again, all these suttas um, came from the Rig Veda. One of the things that really was um, pretty much a part of every sukta and everything that we looked at was the fact that there was a universal consciousness that actually drove the cosmos, so drove the universe. So there was there was no separation or differentiation between the universal consciousness and our existence. And so this was also highlighted in many suktas, many forms of the fact that what is existing within us, the microcosm, is something that is very similar to what exists in the macrocosm or in the universe. Then we also looked at Bhagavad Purana, Srimad Bhagavatam, and it talked about the cosmic map in a very detailed fashion. He talks about the creation of the universe with several Brahmanda, which again is very much a multiverse kind of a theory, and again going through eternal cycles of creation, sustenance, dissolution. The Brahmanda itself that we inhabit was described as in yojanas as 4 billion miles. It then within the Brahmanda it talked about a disk of Bhumandala, and it gave a certain dimension to it. Within the Bhumandala, it talked about dvipas and sagar, and it talked about us inhabiting Jambu Dvipa, and he talked about the vertical arrangement of the locusts. It gave quite a bit of uh, knowledge, quite a bit of theory about how the sun and the earth are in at an axis of 23.5 degrees, which gives rise to the seasons. So that was very well mentioned. There was also the mention of the earth being a globe or being a sphere, and there are days and nights. It talked a lot about this ratio of 108, which also gave the distance of the earth and the sun divided by the sun's diameter, which was again approximately 108. We looked at Richard Thompson's view of the Bhagavad Purana, where he actually looked upon the entire cosmic map as a composite map. And he looked upon the fact that that represented the cosmic map actually given by the Bhagavad Purana represented at 4 different layers. He talked about geography, where he talked about geographical representation of the Asian map. He talked about the Earth as a polar projection, as a planisphere, and that again, a 2D representation of a 3D surface. And he talked about the Bhumandala being a representation of the solar system. There, he actually computed the different distances as given in the Srimad Bhagavatam in terms of yojana, converted them into miles, and then surprisingly saw that there was a very good fit in the dimensions given in Bhagavad Purana with the current measurement of the orbitals of the planets. The fourth thing that he talked about was the fact that it is also a representation, especially the lokas, were a representation of spiritual realms. So he talked about the fact that it is much more than an observational um, thesis on what the universe is. It talked about the levels of consciousness that one has to reach in order to go to the different locus. So, therefore, it was a science plus devotion in that one particular map or one particular or the representation that is given in Srimad Bhagavatam. Uh, Recently, I mean, I just sent out a link to one article because there was a question in the last lecture about the Indian researchers in this area, and there is one uh, a very prolific researcher called Subhash Kak, who is now, I think, a resident in Oklahoma. He's a professor of electrical engineering in the Oklahoma State University, I think. He had published a lot of many aspects about Indian history, Indian language systems, different astronomical observations. He has, I think it was back in the 2018 or 19 that he got a Padma Shri as well from the Indian government. He talks about Srimad Bhagavatam in that article I sent you. He concentrates on a few different things. He concentrates on the Yuga cycle, and that is quoted in the Bhagavatam. That is quoted in the third canto of Bhagavatam. He talks about the fact that the Bhumandala diameter actually he talks quite a bit about the rotation of the sun or the rotation of the earth around the sun, whatever you look at, however you look at it, and that is one of the areas that he concentrates on. He also talks a lot about the different interpretations of the rays of the sun reaching the earth, and there is a mention in there about different yojanas, 2000 yojanas in half a nimisha, and then if he converts the yojanas to miles and nimishas to second, he gets a very intriguing speed of light, which is almost exactly the same as what the speed of light is right now. So, I mean, he does not say that the speed of light was clearly known to the Indians, but he says this is a very intriguing coincidence. So, in summarizing all the different cosmologies that we've gone through, uh, we have seen that between the Indian and the modern scientific cosmology, there are levels of correspondence. So it could be a direct correspondence, or it can be an indirect correspondence, or even sometimes there is no correspondence. So, for example, in the cosmogenesis views, there is a reasonable correspondence between the Big Bang theory and both the sutras of Nasadiya and Purusha. The whole thing about cosmic future, again, Big Bounce theory is, like I said, a bit of a speculation, but that corresponds very well to the eternal cycles that is mentioned in many of the ancient cosmological texts. And in particular, the Srimad Bhagavatam talks about the creation of Brahmanda again in the eternal cycles, and what is being talked about in astrophysics at the moment. Again, it is something that is speculative and cannot be measured as such. It talks about the cosmic bubble theory, and which is again similar to what is being mentioned in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Again, it could be an indirect correspondence there. However, there are many instances of uh, uh, spiritual descriptions that we find in our texts, like, for example, the different lokas or the subtle realms in terms of the size of Brahmanda. And these are obviously metaphorical from that point of view. Poetic in some, and encompasses a certain amount of spirituality in there. So that is clearly not a direct correspondence with the modern theory and modern status. So what we can say is that from all the different cosmologies of ancient India that we have seen, we have a synthesis of science and spirituality. There is always a mention, or there is always a no separation between science and spirituality. There is always in all the texts that we see uh, a continuous mention of the fact that the microcosm and the macrocosm are similar, and there is a divine manifestation and that we observe in the form of a universe. So this probably is something which is not clear and not considered in the modern scientific cosmology. So before I proceed to the next item, I thought I'll just take a pause here and see if there's um, any comments, any questions about the different cosmological models and paradigms that we see.
Yeah, so Ajay, if I can quickly get clarified, what is the, in terms of modern units, the one yojana is about how many kilometers?
I'm sorry, Fani Raj, I cannot hear you very well. Can anyone else hear him?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I can hear him.
Okay.
So the
So
question,
what was the question? Sorry.
the question was in kilometers, how long is a yojana, or how much is a yojana in kilometers?
Yeah, in miles, they normally say between 8 to 9 miles. So I would say between 14 and a half to 16 kilometers per year.
That's right, that's right. That's what I got the reference. So it's
Okay.
roughly 12 to 15 kilometers per yojana.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so okay, that's in line with my understanding. Thank you.
Okay, good. Okay, all right. So I'll proceed to looking at uh, the Bharatiya astronomy again, as mentioned in all the texts and so on. So there are what I wanted to convey is the fact that the there have been a lot of different astronomical observations that have existed for many years. So there is always, maybe uh, doubt in people's mind and in terms of how long has this been going on. So we have texts from greater than 2000 BCE, earlier than 2000 BCE, and there are, I mean, it's all quoted in the Rig Veda. It's um, and there are many other texts apart from the Rig Veda, and some of them are parts of Rig Veda. Uh, and of course, so the Rig Samhita, which is again part of, summarizing the Rig Veda, Taittiriya Brahmana, Taittiriya Upanishad, Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. So there are many Upanishads which again are either associated with Rig Veda or associated with other Vedas. And then, of course, we have a lot of mention. Almost every Purana has a certain amount of cosmological mention, a cosmological part of the Quran. Now, just as an example, this is one of the famous seals that was found in Mohenjo-daro, and it is known as the Prajapati Brahma seal, also given a number. And it shows Brahma in a wearing a horned hat and in a cross-legged position. But the main thing is that it gives you these animal representations on the four sides, and it also gives you symbols at the top, and also an animal representation at the bottom. Now, it has been interpreted that this is a very astronomical kind of depiction. It actually depicts the four cardinal directions and the alignment. These animals actually represent the constellations of the zodiac, and these symbols, there are 7 symbols in total, which actually represent the constellation of the Pleiades that we see at the moment. And that is actually a representation of the vernal equinox, because only at that point, when the vernal equinox was there, these particular zodiac signs were visible. Uh, and so that corresponds to around 3000 BCE. So it actually depicted the vernal equinox of 3000 BCE. So then apart from that, there are a number of different observations made in the different texts. Now I'm using that or the text Bharatiya Jyotish Shastra from Shankar Dikshit. That is written in the late 19th century, I think. And it takes a statement from Aitreya Brahmana, where he talks about the fact that the sun neither sets nor rises. The fact that the sun, never rises, and the knowledge of the earth being round in shape and being suspended in space and separated from the sky is clearly perceived in the above allusions from the Brahmanas. So such a long time ago, it was pretty clear knowledge that there is no rising or setting of the sun, or there is no movement of the sun as such, and the earth is separated from the sun and suspended in space. This is from Aitreya Brahmana. again, a reference found in the Bharatiya Jyotish Shastra. It talks about the solar year. He talks about the fact that the wheel of time having 12 spokes that revolve, so that, and then it talks about 720 pairs and 360 rods. Now, the day and night is a couple, so 720, and 360 is the actual days that it takes to go around the earth. Then he also talks about the 13th month. So there is an additional, so it's not exactly 360 days. And it also gives the names of the 12 months. As it goes around, and it gives some circle as the name of the intercalary month, or the month that is more than the 360 days. So this is again from the Taittiriya Samhita. And it talks about Uttarayana and Dakshinayana, that kind of talks about the sun moving towards the south for 6 months and towards the north for another 6 months. So very clearly it talks about the movement of the sun. So many times when the Western historians talk about the geocentricity of the old Indian astronomy, they are missing many of the facts, because it is clearly a representation rather than any observation. So this Uttarayana and Dakshinayana has also been used in different terms. The terminology is different in different texts, but there is very clear knowledge of the fact that there is a movement of the sun over time. The movement of the moon is also very clear, and there was a clear description of the nakshatras in the Vedas. Here is the Rig Samhita that talks about the moon being placed among the stars. So as you can see here is nakshatra. The nakshatra has been applied only to those stars which are situated in the moon's path. Soma and nakshatra can come together. So this is, but again, it's also described in many poetic terms, where where it says the sun, the stars in the night escape like thieves on the approach of the all-seeing sun. So it is quite metaphorical, quite poetic, at the same time observational. So that is a very good synthesis of the entire observational and the spiritual at the same time. Now, this comes from a very famous interaction between Gargi and Yajnavalkya. So this is part of the Rihardharnakya Upanishad, where again the antiquity is, it's actually even mentioned in some of the very old texts. So the antiquity is clearly not something that that a date can be actually placed on this, but it is amazingly old. And Gargi actually questions Yajnavalkya on many aspects of cosmology. And in one of the questions, she's asking Yajnavalkya about what is above the heaven and what is below the earth, and he actually replies that the entire between the earth and the rest of the sun and the moon is manifested, unmanifested ether or space between them. So there was this knowledge that the earth is suspended in space, even at those times. So continuing with the exchange between Gargi and Yajnavalkya, he talks about it. Yajnavalkya talks about this immutable, mighty rule of the immutable, and he says that the sun and the moon are held in the position because of this mighty rule of the immutable, and this is very clearly uh, talking about gravity. He goes on to say that the muhurtas, days and nights, everything are held in their respective places. And then he also says some rivers flow eastward from the White Mountains, others flow westward and continue in that direction. Now, how does that relate to gravity? So gravity is the force that causes rivers to flow downhill. Gravity is the force that keeps the planets in orbit around the sun, and therefore leads to this muhurtas in days and nights and fortnights held in their respective places. So this mighty rule of the immutable is nothing but gravity. And that was actually talked about so many thousands of years ago. Again, in the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, there is the famous Purnamada Stotra, which is Purnamada, Purnamidam, Purnat, Purnamudachyate, Purnasya, Purnamadaya, Purnameva Vashishyate, which is essentially the fact that everything is Purnam, or this that includes the microcosm, which is also said as being Brahman, and the macrocosm, which is the universe. So, universe and Brahman are nothing but the same thing, and the infinite actually proceeds from each other. And this, if you take out this infinite infinitude from this infinite, what remains is infinite or Brahman alone. So he talks about the infinity of cosmos in this shloka. Then there's also an an observation that is noted in the Rig Veda about an eclipse that happened in a certain configuration. The actual star positions are very vividly described in this in the Rig Veda, and so these two researchers have actually used all the details in the that was described in the Rig Veda, and have concluded that the actual eclipse, or what is known as Atri's eclipse, was recorded between the dates of 4202 BCE and 3811 BCE. So that is one pointer towards the antiquity of the Rig Veda. Now, that doesn't say that Rig Veda was composed at that time. It probably could have composed earlier as well. And there are many instances of things being added to text as the time goes along. So, but it just says that at that point of around 4000 BCE, Rig Veda existed. And in the actual story, now that is another interesting aspect of many of the ancient Indian astronomical texts, is that these phenomena of other eclipses or any of the observations in astronomy are passed on to through the generations using stories. And in that in this particular story, it talks about Atri using his sacred prayer and then using that to actually dispel the darkness surrounding the sun. So, but those instances of stories being used is something that you'll find in many cases. So there have been a lot of observational recording of comets, and they were known as Dhumaketu, the cloud of dust almost, and this was actually recorded in many of the ancient texts, Rig Veda, yeah, even in what are known as the Itihasa texts of Ramayana and Mahabharata. It was also noted by many ancient astronomers. Parashara is one, and of course Varma here is the later one, and also in many Tamil works as well. However, because of the limitations of what he can determine, it's only from the 12th century onwards that these comets can be reliably dated. So the observations, even though they were earlier, are not easy to be dated. So now, one of the questions then comes is who actually made these observations, and who were the people and the astronomers, as we know them now, who were behind these observations. Now, there are many rishis that we know that are part of the Rig Veda. You have a list of rishis from Agni Rasa down to Agastya and Bharata, Bhrigu Rishi, Vishwamitra, Vashishta, and they are credited with many different number of hymns. So Agni Rasa actually has more than 3,000 hymns in his name. There are many sutras and suktas that we have seen and gone through, and they've been credited to different people, different rishis and their families. And again, the family doesn't is not actually just biological family; it's also the Gurukul family. So there are many of these things that have been noted, and it is also said that many observations or many hymns and notings are apurusha. They're not just a direct human knowledge, but something more than that. They also talk about many siddhantas or astronomical works which are there but not completely there. And some of them are almost totally lost. And then in the Rishi Parashara, he noted Parashara Siddhanta. So there is aspect of the Surya Siddhanta which still exists, but there are many other Siddhantas which which are kind of lost and not completely in existence at the moment. So one of the people, one of the astronomers that we know of, and that has been documented, is Lagartha. So who was Lagartha? We know him as a great teacher, a beacon of ancient brilliance, basically. He is known as a Maharishi, Acharya Lagartha Muni, and he is traditionally placed at around in the era of 1400 BCE. We cannot say for sure, but that is what many scholars have placed him at. There is no, the reason we can't say for sure is because there is no personal biography that exists, that survives. There is only about 43 of his verses that have been written, and these verses form a part of the Rig Veda, Yajurveda, and there are some overlap between the different verses, and these are verses that basically form Vedanga Jyotish, and that is known as the one of the oldest, or it is the oldest surviving text in the Indian astronomy. But as we've seen, there have been numerous observations even before this time period of 1400 BCE. So we know that astronomical knowledge has been expressed in many forms, in many texts, many shastras, many different itihasas that we see before the a bit of a documented history of Lagartha. So what did he actually discover? He talked about 5-year yuga. We can go about that a little bit more. He talked about the 27 nakshatra calendar, which is again still used. He talked about the winter solstice in the Dhanishta nakshatra. He talked about the intercalary month, where he said adding a month every 2.5 years, almost like the leap year that we currently use. He talked about the ratio, which was again the ratio of the length of the day, which is true for that altitude that gave indications and pointers to exactly where he was. So, what I thought was just this is basically all the different astronomers that Madhu went through, that we know that are existing, that are documented as in the what is known as the post-Siddhantic era, starting from Aryabhatta all the way to the late 19th century. So that is the timeline of all the different astronomers that we know. So what I thought was maybe in the next session, I will go through some of the astronomers and their biographies, their discoveries, and the advantage there is that we have documented texts of not only their biographies, their discoveries, their stories, what they actually, who they actually interacted with, and so on. So I'll go through that in the next class. And if there's any questions, I see there is a question in the chat.
Yeah, in fact, let me answer that, Ajay. The 13th
Yes.
month, the 13th month or the intercalary month is, yes, it is indeed the Adhika Masam. Yes, Adhika Masa. We will actually cover this in much detail, in a couple of classes from now. So we'll go through the exact calculation of how an Adhika Masa is calculated and what is the frequency of this Adhika Masa, why that what is that frequency? Why does it appear once in so many months? So we'll go through all that, in a structured manner, right? So yes, 13th month is actually the Adhika Masa. And if you actually extend this concept of Adhika, see, because I just wanted to add again or emphasize the point once more that the non-linearity of all these time scales, right? The sun and moon, they form the Amavasya and Paurnami in a certain frequency or a phase, right? Whereas the sun's entry into the signs, it follows a different phase, right? And these two are different systems of calendars, right? So it is because of these differences that the Adhika Masa, etc., comes number one. Second thing is, you can find that the Adhika concept comes to the day level, right? So you actually have the Tithi changing 2 times within the same day. So you'll have an early morning Tithi change and maybe at a late night Tithi change. So this is like like Adhika Tithi, if you may call that way, right? And then the opposite of it, which is the Kshaya Tithi. So which means that there is an extra day on a day, extra Tithi on a day, and sometimes there is no Tithi on a day, right? So we'll cover these concepts, why it happens like this, right? So see, these are very common practices in our system, but it will be interesting to see how they are actually calculated. What's the mathematical basis for that, right? And I'm actually quite tempted to go on and about Adhika Masa, but I'll actually save it for 2 classes from now. Yeah. Yeah, it's actually tied to our customs also. It's not only some astronomical. It is. We are actually remembering the Adhika Masa in our day-to-day custom. So we'll see how that is.
Look forward to that interesting class, Madhu.
Yeah, definitely. I'll try to make it as interesting as possible, hopefully. And I was very. I don't know if anyone else has any other questions, maybe.
Yeah, any questions? Any clarifications?
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead,
No,
Madhu.
I think maybe Pani Raja was trying to ask, but his line is not
Yeah,
very
I don't know if it's only on my end, but I'm having a problem
The newly married.
hearing.
Sorry, I think you're asking.
Some audio issue. No.
It's better, but I think when you start
It's okay.
talking, it kind of breaks.
Okay. There's some signal issue. I don't know really. Sometimes it bugs me too. It's okay. I'll take a pass.
Okay. Sure. So
maybe you can type the question.
Yeah, you can type the question. Yes.
Yeah. So while maybe Pandiraja types, I had one interesting observation, Ajayji, on one of your slides, right? It is that Prajapati Brahma symbol on the, if you can maybe bring it, I'll try to explain that. I mean, again, I've not seen this before, so I was just thinking as you were showing it. So basically, I think the Prajapati Brahma's 4 heads looking in all the 4 directions, the 4 cardinal directions, they are literally encompassing the 360 degrees of the sky, right? Which means they cover all the 27 nakshatras also in that process, right? Now, very interestingly, in the diagram that you showed, there was a buffalo, right?
Yes.
And
yes.
right opposite to that, there was an elephant, right?
Yes.
Now, this may not just be a arbitrary placement, right? If you actually look at the nakshatra mandala, every nakshatra is assigned multiple parameters. One of them is a nakshatra animal, the animal which rules the nakshatra. Now, if you look at Bharani nakshatra is actually ruled by the animal for Bharani nakshatra is an elephant. The symbol, you can look it up online, it's an elephant. Now, if you look exactly opposite to that, in the Bharani is in Mesha. If you look exactly opposite to it, you have Tula. In Tula, the 180-degree star to it is Swati, right? And
yes.
the animal for Swati is actually buffalo, right? Now in your diagram, you could actually see that the buffalo and the elephant were on opposite directions, right? Now,
Yes.
see this play again. This elephant buffalo choice is also not arbitrary for Bharani and Swati,
True.
right? See, Bharani is ruled by Yamaraja. Yeah. Now Yamaraja's vehicle is the one opposite to it, which is the buffalo.
Yeah, right.
Right. So like this, you will see that the entire zodiac is actually consisting of nakshatra pairs with a certain symmetry between the pair nakshatras. You will always see this pattern. Now, I just gave you one example, but if you actually extend it across all the nakshatras, you can see that there such patterns that exist. It's very beautiful.
Yes.
You see,
And
similarly, one more nakshatra is Vishaka and Kritika. See, Kritika and Vishaka are opposite pairs. Now, if you look at South Indian tradition, right, the Lord that rules both Vishaka and Kritika is Lord Muruga, right? So Kartika Paurnami or the Kartika Masa and the Vaisakha Masa are actually very, very auspicious for the worship of Lord Subramanya or Muruga. Now, this is not a coincidence. There is a design in this,
exactly.
right? That and we have to see what that is. So I just thought I would share some interesting anecdotes.
Yeah, absolutely. That's very interesting. And this was basically taken as a representation of the actual time. So based on this nakshatra position, you can actually determine what time it was actually. What is the year?
Correct. Yes.
Okay, so there is.
I think
Yeah, the
Panikaja
whole Arundhati Vashishta, that is an interesting observation as well, because one of the things between in the Arundhati Vashishta, they are like binary stars, and they actually on again what is known now is that they are not the traditional binary star where one dominates the other and the one actually goes around the other. So they are binary stars in which they are actually moving together, going around each other rather than going around the other. So again, this is I don't know if this was completely known at that time, but it is very intriguing that it is shown to married couples as an example of that, the fact that you need to go around each other rather than one going around the other.
Yep.
But yeah, that is a very good observation.
However, that is Vasishta and Arundhati. That is Atri is different.
Atri and Arundhati.
I think it's Vasishta and Arundhati, right? Jayji?
Yeah, Vashishta Arundhati. Yes, not Atri.
Is it? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. So then, no other questions. I will have to wrap up because I've got some other things I need to go to. So yeah, I'll thank you all for coming, and I'll see you next week.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. See you. Next, meet you next week.
Dhanyavad.